know what? We haven't talked for a while either. So
haven't.
Yeah, that's also why. It's just excitement, right? Like, you know what? We haven't.
Okay. All right. Got rid of all that weird, like, echoey stuff.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we're good. So, as you were saying, no, just kidding. Let me let me just introduce you first of all. So thank you, Alana, so much for coming on my channel. It is a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting to, to be on your channel. When I got the invitation, I was like, yeah, of course, right? And then I'm thinking, like we're having a conscious discussion. Yeah, well, it was just like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I
Well,
can talk for hours. Like,
and I mean, I think like some people get so like wrapped up around like conscious. It's just basically us talking. Like it doesn't really mean anything because I believe like just we're always a stream of consciousness. Like it doesn't have to be, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't need to be like on this like pedestal of like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be like so woke today.
right? But you know what though, honestly, but like I just feel like we can, I do like the idea how you've titled it conscious discussions, because really and truly, when we talk about real life, we talk about stuff that we're experiencing, whether it be on an individual basis, whether it be what we see in the world from our perspective. It is conscious. It's like a mindful discussion. Like, and anybody who's, who is into, meditation, and anybody who, has, suffering from mental health and stuff like that, one of the things that I've learned, in therapy and even stuff like that is what we call mindfulness, right? We get into this sort of way of life where we just do things sort of almost like on autopilot, right? And so, and I think we do that with most everything. Like there have been times like I get so caught up, like maybe in my thoughts or whatever, that and it's kind of scary to even think about, but like driving, for example, people sometimes drive on autopilot. Like I've done that too, where I, like, let's say for example, I know that, okay, I'm done work now, I'm going home, but maybe I meant to stop off at somewhere in the grocery store or something like that, right? But my mind has been so distracted that I forget that I was planning to go to the grocery store, and I just find myself at home, and it's like, wait a second, something's missing. Like, have you ever had that happen to you?
Absolutely have had that happen. I've had times where like I know I left work and I know I got home, but I have no idea what happened in the middle.
But right, and that's scary. That's scary to think about, because it's like, did I see that the light was green? Did I run a red light? Like there are times like I've thought about that, and that's a frightening thought when you can't recall whether you stopped at a red light or not. What? So yeah, you know what I mean? So like it's so when that happens, it's very important to sort of take notice and take stock and be in the present moment, because we're not always in the present, where our mind is going a mile a minute. We're off thinking, this and the next, and yet we're still living and breathing. That leaves us in zombie state, because do we even really know what's going on like around us in the present, because we're so focused on either what happened, what we still need to do, what might be coming up in the future, like, right? So that's what I'm saying, like, it's all about mindfulness. So the fact that you're calling it a conscious discussion, we're staying in the present, but we're also in the staying in the present, we are also bringing forth and discussing things that are happening to us in our present, right? And things that we've observed around us, and sort of making it conscious that not only are we able to see and process with you know, in the present moment with the person we're talking to, but even just to give a perspective and understanding of where life is sort of going in the present moment. And that's what I think is really awesome about this, right? Because we're getting to bring forth all those weird thoughts that are just keep us sort of preoccupied, you know, while we go through our daily lives. But we're actually giving a moment to process that information in the present moment with somebody else, right? And knowing that that's exactly what you're doing. You're not driving a car, you're not watching TV, you're not watching anything else. You are focused on the person you're talking to in the present moment, talking about all these things that have been going on in your mind on 24/7, probably, right? And that you're living in the present moment. So like right now, what we sort of started talking about was the pandemic and sort of what's been going on, and you know, how we're seeing certain things unfold, and you know, and how that affects us, right? So that was really long-winded, but yeah, that's where we're at. That's how I've deciphered down the word, what you've just described as conscious discussion.
Yeah.
And seed.
Drop mic. No, yeah, and I think like for me, it's just relating. Like we are humans and we're these social creatures, and this is how, like, this is for me, this is partly how I make sense of things. Like how I make sense of the world and what's happening is the relating through other people. Because, you know, I could be holed up in a cabin in the woods somewhere, right? Which like half the time I'm really tempted to do, don't get me wrong, just to get away from everything. But then like I probably wouldn't know what's going on. I probably would like feel stuff like intuitively and energetically. I'd be like feeling fluctuations and all of this. But I mean, I think there's such beauty in being seen by another person, like really being seen by another person and being heard, and just like holding space for each other in that way. And really, like you were so eloquently discussing, is, you know, being present. Like I'm fully present with you in this now moment. Like that is so beautiful. And that to me is one of the best things about this whole existence, about being in this human body, is like these moments when I get to really connect on a deep level with another person, with another soul. And that is the disconnection that's missing, that, you know, when people like us are out in the world and, you know, going to the grocery store or whatever, and there's all these zombies everywhere, and we're just like, where am I? It sometimes for me it's really surreal, because I'm like existing in this different space than a lot of the people around me. And I know that we're not the only ones. Like I know we have community, I know we have people and tribe, and I know people's consciousness and awareness is expanding and changing and shifting. And all that being said, though, there's still a lot of people, I'd say the majority of people out there, that are just like what you were talking about, kind of on that autopilot, that aren't being present in the moment. So it can be difficult to be in an environment where you're surrounded by that. Like it feels so like you feel so disconnected. You're just like, what is this? Like, how do I like walk through the store? How do I like navigate this? I don't know. That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, well, yeah, like it's You're absolutely right. You know, it's funny because actually, so I don't know if have you ever watched The Matrix? Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix?
Yes, I was just talking about it the other day.
Really? Okay. So yeah. So when did I watch it? Yeah, on the 23rd. I think it was on the 23rd. I watched the movie, somewhere around there. Anyways, and I watched the final installment. I've seen the trilogy from years and years ago, right? But I don't think I've ever revisited, especially not the second two, like the 2 and 3, right? But the first one for sure I've seen a few times. But I remember, what a crazy concept that was, even when, like, back then when I was watching it, right? And I was like, oh, whatever, okay. But now, as sort of my life is sort of taken a tumble, and my thoughts have expanded, and all of these things that have, been going on, and I'm on this sort of spiritual journey, awakening, whatever you want to call it, like, ascension sort of thing. And I'm paying more attention to things that I never really paid attention to before, right? I suddenly, watching the fourth installment, and then somehow I at least I feel it was, I did pretty good, because my memory was still on the first, at least on the first movie for sure, was still very, like, remembering what happened. And was slowly starting to piece together what 2 and 3 were about, even though I didn't like them as much, and I didn't watch them as much either. So remembering the storyline, but seeing how the fourth movie sort of was wrapping and bringing everything together, and I was like watching the movie. Now I'm totally spoiler free, but I was just like, oh my gosh, is that how our life is? I started, but not obviously in the exact same sense, right? But just thinking about technology, thinking about, this whole sort of robot mentality that we were just talking about, and all of that stuff. Life imitates art, and art imitates life. And what if the stories that we sort of portray out into the world are really just some sort of figment of a memory, or something in our subconscious, for maybe a life we've lived before, right? I'm talking about the creators who created these, like, movie moments, because there was another movie that I watched that sort of gave me the similar vibes of explanation, and the way humanity and technology and all that stuff, and that was Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. And yes, that was a bit of a comedy too, but, like, it was very well entertaining, but sort of watching it with a more of awakened mind, sort of open-mindedness, I'm thinking, but this is virtual reality with human input, but yet mimics how we function in society in a way. I'm surprised I didn't give myself a headache, because all the thoughts that just kept going through it. And I actually did a video on my channel, just like a 15-minute video, basically, where I was like, yeah, go watch The Matrix and go watch, like, Free Guy, because this is what I watched, and this is what I came up with. And those deja vu moments that you've ever had, how do you know that those are not part of moments that you've already lived, maybe in another lifetime, that was, and certain elements may be different, but something about the familiarity of it is what is familiar. And that could be because we've lived it, right? So maybe all these figments of that we watch, like TV and things like that, and stories, could really just be memories of, whether it be clips of ancestral memory, or clips of a past life. And obviously for entertainment, you know, it's glammed up, so you know it looks far out there, but maybe it really isn't. So that was something that I was like, and then I was like, yeah, but you know, I'm talking to myself and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know. You gotta be careful because, you know, like how you process this and then maybe you share it, because people might just start to think that you're crazy, because this is not like the norm sort of thinking, right? Like who sits and analyzes movies like that to that part to like go that deep? I know for sure that was something I never did before.
Wait, does no one think you're crazy yet? Has this not happened yet? A bunch of people that think I'm crazy.
You know, like it's just, you know, so it's like, yeah, but it's still, but as much as it's blowing my mind, I'm also fascinated by it, right? And I want to talk, like I want to talk to somebody. Am I crazy? Does this not seem like something that is, that, you know what I mean? And so it's almost like now sort of craving the connection, the, you know, that sort of common connection with somebody else, to be like, well, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And does this make sense? Because like it feels right, but it sounds weird. You know what I mean? Like it just
Totally. And that's one of the main reasons why I created my channel is, you know, so hopefully like, I mean, I know I just started out, but you know, maybe somewhere along the line, like somebody will see this that really needs to, and they'll hear something and they'll be like, you know what? I'm not crazy. Like, I thought it was just me. I thought I was crazy this whole time, like wondering this stuff about the Matrix. And here's these two people talking about it, you know? And that's why, like, I think these conversations are so important now. It's so important to share. Like, this is not at all from like a place of like, you know, oh, we have this like special information that we need to teach you and we know all this stuff. No, not at all. It's just like we're just kind of winging it and like trying to make sense of everything. And through like sharing that with each other, you know,
yeah,
maybe we can actually like build community or provide support for other people that are, you know, questioning things or maybe going through a hard time. And you know, both having the social work backgrounds here, like, you know, that's kind of our thing, right? So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like, so, you know, but at the same time, as I'm saying this, it's, you know, it's also important to bear in mind that I'm not saying that, like, I'm not saying, well, in the movie is portraying real life, like our actual human existence. Like, no, we're not Morpheus. We can't dodge bullets and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're not, you know, like Neo and, oh, I'm the one and I can, you know, like manipulate gravity. No, 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 no. I can't fly and I'm not gonna ever attempt to fly. Like, you know what I mean? Like things like that, you know, and you know, and that idea that, you know, that's a whole nother thing in itself, where, you know, where reality sort of gets distorted in a way, because we, you know, we have to remember that what we, you know, what is put out there in creative form, you know, from what we see on TV, that's usually something that is it's also put out and zhuzhed up, if you will, to, you know, for excitement and things like that, you know, like, you know, if we could be invincible and things like that, but we're not, right? Like, that's in this reality we live in, we still live within the means of that reality, right? Like, humans can't fly unless you get on a plane. You know what I mean? Like, we don't grow wings to like things. So it's still to be mindful of that and knowing, okay, where are we at? But at the same time, but the looking at things that sort of from a more open-minded perspective, well, maybe these actually are, you know, clips of memories and things like that are just, you know, that trigger our imagination for us to put stuff out there, right? For entertainment purposes. So yeah, but there still being a level of truth within it. That's sort of the seed that's planted, right?
Yeah, because I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, of course, but I mean, there's been other movies that I've seen besides The Matrix where it's like very clear that there is some sort of like messaging, some sort of agenda that um you know, to those who are ready to see it, or those who are
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, aware, they'll get it, they'll see it, whereas like, you know, maybe some other people watch the movie and they don't pick up on the same stuff. But I've seen actually quite a bit where, you know, I'm watching like a TV show or a movie and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. You know, how this like little storyline and this plot and whatever is in the movie is like almost like a parallel um of, you know, what's happening in our reality. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really interesting. I pick up a lot more on that stuff these days.
Yeah, like actually I just so well, because over the holiday season and because, you know, with COVID and everything and being at home, you know, so I spend a lot of time on TV, like watching movies and things like that, right? And so I had finished over like Christmas and just yesterday was watching so I like the Marvel universe set of movies, like, you know, like the comic books made to life, whatever. Never really a comic book type of girl, but totally into the movies, right? So um I finished watching Hawkeye, which, you know, is one of the Avenger Marvel sort of characters, whatever, and it's following sort of his individual story. And and for the first time that I never really entirely paid attention to before, or maybe I did, but it didn't really, you know, sink in quite the same way. Um, is the whole idea of the DC comic sort of universe and the Marvel comic universe and things like that sort of being an ideal of what life outside of Earth could possibly be like, right? Like we're a bunch of people and characters living in these, you know, multi dimensions sort of thing, and and that the idea of, you know, certain paths that we're on, and, you know, and how our connections with each other, like, you know, when you meet somebody and it seems destined or fated, whatever, but you can't explain why, right? Like those are, to me, those are our examples in our regular lives that sort of, to me, sort of mimic, like, because there's certain moments, like, so like, not to give too much away, but like, you know, I guess there's in the Hawkeye, whatever, there's a girl who happens, like, many years ago, sees a glimpse of the character, you know, doing his Avengers thing, whatever, and she becomes, you know, what's the word, impressioned in a way, to the point where now what she decides that she wants to do for her life is inspiring by this person that she saw this how many years ago, and now bring it, fast forward it to like, you know, like, sort of present day for her, like maybe 10-15 years later, you know, she's, you know, that's the path that she chose, was to learn archery and to learn all this, to be just like this hero that she saw many years ago, right? I want to be like him and idolize him and whatever, and somehow they cross paths where they end up teaming up together to fight off something, some sort of evil in the universe, whatever. you know, and become successful, whatever. And then that's like the start of like a lifelong sort of friendship or you know, or mentorship, if you will, right? So, well, you know, if I was to sort of put that in my actual make sense of it in my day life would be, well, you know, I had some sort of tragedy in my life. Let's say, you know, like I lost my job, my marriage failed, whatever, and I'm here searching for meaning of my life now, whatever. And I just happen to come across somebody who seems to get me, who something about them speaks to me, or, you know, intrigues my interest. So now I'm sort of picking and choosing to do things that are in alignment with what they represent, right? And that's how I set myself on a different path, that now that if I didn't take that path and I went a different way, it means that the connection I would have made with somebody else would be different, right? But not saying that that person would have been an archer, you know, an archer or whatever, and I decided I'm going to learn to like how to like, you know, shoot bows and arrows and then make like trick arrows that blow up stuff and whatever. Like obviously that's the glamour part of it, that is right. But the idea that, you know, and even just talking about my own reality, right? Like things had to fall apart in my life for certain people to come in. Like where I was in the stage of my life, that's how we met, right? Like I if I was still working and, you know, and I had my job in 9 to 5, I wouldn't have been spending as much time on YouTube. I wouldn't have, you know, been on that much on Facebook. I wouldn't have come across, you know, um, you know, how, and, you know, like this, the event that Himalaya had put on, and that's how we met, right? All of those things wouldn't have transpired if my life didn't sort of fall apart the way that it did to put me in that position to have that encounter, right? And so that's how I connect the, you know, the movies to my reality and da 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 da, right? And make sense of all of it, where, you know, so that's what I mean, like just sort of bring it all back to circle.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, sometimes people will regret certain things, or you know, not understand like, oh, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? But it's all happening for you, and it's all happening as it should, because you wouldn't be who you are today, and you wouldn't be, you know, we wouldn't be having this conversation if every little thing hadn't worked out the way it
That
did
it
in the
did.
past, right?
Exactly,
It's
right?
it could take like one tiny little thing. I mean, it could have been something like you wouldn't even think is important. I mean, really, it could be like the smallest thing that can just change the whole trajectory and ripple out into everyone else's trajectories too. So, yeah,
Exactly.
that understanding that everything happens as it should, um, and that, you know, I wouldn't be the person I am today, or I wouldn't be here now without all of that other stuff that I've experienced. That has helped me so much in the acceptance of all of it because some of it was really challenging.
Yeah. And I mean, not to say that, you know, I can say, yeah, okay, well, I'm okay with the way everything happened now. Like, no, like I'm still doing my healing, right? Because like there are things that did happen that were traumatic, that, you know, that were hurtful, that, you know, and the constant battle and the struggle. Like even now, you know, there's are days I still get, you know, rather exhausted from, you know, from the grind, because, you know, things aren't the way I had, you know, are not where I had expected them to be, you know, or to end up. And so, you know, and sometimes that can be discouraging and things like that, right? But I do recognize that if certain things didn't happen, my life would also be very different, and who knows where that would be. So given the fact that, you know, and this is where, you know, gratitude sort of comes in, because, you know, and where you have to recognize and be thankful for what you do have, rather than focusing on what is still lacking. Because when you're stuck in that mindset of lacking, then you're just foretelling a life of lacking, right? So, you know, I know who really wants to be stuck there. I don't, right? So it's, you know, so this is where I thank my blessings for, you know, for the support that I have in my life, my mother, you know, I you know, I am grateful that, you know, during the fact of this pandemic, I was still able to keep, you know, myself safe, and I have loved ones that, you know, have been safe. I find it unfortunate, you know, that other people weren't so lucky. But with all that said, sort of using that as an eye opener to, okay, well, this was a loss. How can we do better next time? What are, you know, how can, you know, how can we help our fellow, you know, man? Because at the end of the day, we're all living in, you know, on this one planet, and we have to share it, and we have to, you know, take care of it. Otherwise, if we don't take care of it, we're not taking care of ourselves. And if we don't take care of ourselves, well, you know, we in part of taking care of ourselves, it means that we're also taking care of each other, because at the end of the day, we're all one, right? Like,
Yeah, I have a motto that I love saying lately is self-love will save the world. Because I truly do believe that it starts with the individual, and that as long as you just focus on, you know, doing your own work, and, you know, you're healing and loving yourself, that's enough.
yeah, well, I think, you know, even taking it a step further, because some people, to me, sometimes people get confused by that. It's like, so, well, yeah, self-love. So I put myself first. So I'm just, you know, and it's all about me, 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 me. No, 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 no. It is a circle. It's a circle of give and take. As you feed yourself, you are recognizing who you know, you're recognizing how important you are, and remembering that you are also the image of someone else. So as you take care of yourself,
yeah. So let me kind of like dig a little deeper into that.
yeah,
So I believe that when we come to a place of self-love and acceptance, and when we really open our heart, when we do the work to kind of peel away the old layers, the limiting beliefs, the fears, the old traumas, societal expectations, illusions, everything. And when you get down to the core of who you are, like there's only love. Like love is truth. And so
yeah,
we focus on self-love and getting to that place of really like knowing what love is and knowing what love feels like with an open heart. You have no choice but to also like love everyone else and be in service to those around you. Like it all goes hand in hand.
yeah,
Like,
it's
you know,
exactly.
I basically view people's actions and behaviors as just a reflection of the relationship they have with themselves. So if someone is hateful, you know, they have a closed heart. You know, if someone is can truly be open and vulnerable and caring, that means that they've done the work to get there. And so I don't want to make it sound at all like it's all about me and it's selfish, because that's not actually what love is.
No, it's not. No,
I think
you're
people,
absolutely right. But I think it's important to recognize that, because some people, we know what we're talking about, right? Like, as we're communicating, we know, but it's very easy for someone to misconstrue what is being said, to be like, well, you know what I mean? Well, yeah, so it's all about me, blah, 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 blah. Tick, 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 tick. No, that's not the true meaning. And somewhere, it's gotten lost. So really understanding what that means, when you're gonna, what ends up happening when you truly love yourself, then you're gonna reach a place of giving what you want for yourself. And that's the unity of it, right? Because we're all connected. So as I nurture me, I'm nurturing you, and as you nurture yourself, you're nurturing me, and vice versa, right?
yeah,
And it's just this unity that comes from it. And yeah, it's all love. It's all love. Like, that's it, right? Like,
yeah. And another useful way to explain this to people is you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So in order to, like, let's say you are being in service and helping people, you cannot fully help those people. You cannot
without helping
give
yourself.
people the best of you unless you're the best of you. Like, you need to
Exactly.
be the best of you so that way other people can fully benefit from the best of you. Like, that's kind of how it works. So that's what I mean, as far as like self-love is not selfish, because you're actually able to be in service and help other people better.
Yep.
Right?
This is awesome. I'm so happy to do this. Like, this is what I wanted all along. Like, and like, where I sometimes feel like I'm crazy, because these are things like, this is like the way we're having a conversation now, is how sometimes when I'm alone, I have conversations with myself, and I'm just sitting, and I'm like, yeah, but if people did this, like, like, then, and why don't people get it? And da, 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 da. And I'm going to try my best to do what I can do, but like, I'm only one person, but that's where you got to start, right? So it's like, so it's it's good. Life, even with all its ups and downs, is actually fascinating, and it's intriguing, and the mysteries of just sort of being able to uncover certain things, like, and then these certain trigger moments where it's like, oh, well, I didn't, well, how come I've seen that so many times before? How come I didn't, like, that didn't click before, and it's like, oh, well, when did the light go on? How did the light go on?
Or the trigger moments where you actually are triggered and you're just like, okay, why am I upset right now? Why am I
Right, like,
angry? Why is this happening?
yeah, right, and really sort of diving deep, right? But that's the healing part, right? That's that work that we don't always necessarily want to do, and often we just don't, right? Because it's like, it's not an easy road to go down, right? So, but it is necessary.
Yeah, it is, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, with myself, I'm at this place where I can't not do it. Like, it's just a part of my life now. Like, I can't, because I've lived my life for so long the other way, avoiding, just like, and if something comes up, oh, let's just like stuff it in the closet over here and like forget it's there. And like, I did that my whole life, and that didn't work out well at all. So I don't want to go back to that place. So now, even though it is very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable at times. I know that not doing it is going to be worse than the discomfort that I'm going to feel doing it. Because it doesn't go away. It's always there. You're going to have to do it sometime. And I don't know, people watching this, you probably believe in like, coming back for other lives. So that's the way I look at it, is it's like, all right, well, the work that people are avoiding now, like, you're just gonna have to come back and do it again. So you might as well just rip the band-aid off. You know what I mean?
Well, it's even like, even if we think about, spirituality and stuff like that, like I even had the thought the other day, I'm like, I think I'm really old. I think I've been here. I've been here enough times. I feel old. And I don't mean necessarily old, well, besides feeling old age-wise now, because, I'm going to be turning 40 this coming year, and I'm just like, I'm not ready to turn 40 yet. Like, I'm nowhere near where I thought I would be at this age. There's no way. No, can we delay 40, please? Because way too much, right? So, but no, I mean, spiritually speaking, soul-wise, I feel like I've been here before many times over. And I feel like this year, well, I say this year, I mean, this life that I'm currently living right now it is sort of like, it's, in a way, it's my time. Like, I'm, where I'm finally learning all the somehow all the mistakes that I just paused for you. Like, I totally just
thank you.
All the whatever trials and tribulations that I've been through, in many lifetimes, whatever, it finally, I've had to relive it to come to this point where I am of realization and what my purpose is. And I feel like that's kind of what I'm waking up to now. And like all of these ideas and things that I need, I feel like I need to do, is sort of like coming, and they're coming kind of fast, and sometimes a little too fast, because I'm like, okay, well, I can write all this down, but my mind just won't just shut off. And I'm like, like like, I haven't slept well for years, like things like that, like, because my mind just goes a mile a minute. And and to the point where sometimes, like, again, that autopilot thing, like, even though I'm home, which is okay because I'm home, right? So even if the autopilot happens a little bit, like, while I'm at home, it's fine. I'm not operating heavy machinery. Thank goodness. Like, like driving a car or something like that. But, the only really heavy machinery that I can operate these days is my TV, so, or my cell phone. So, I think I'm safe where that's concerned. But yeah, like, I just, it's crazy in so many different ways. It's crazy because, again, I still fear the unknown, but at the same time, looking forward to it, because I have all these ideas, and I think that, and there are things that I want to do. And it is a scary sort of thought to take those steps, because I don't know necessarily where it's going to land me, but yet it's intriguing enough that I want to find out.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So it's like, okay, all right, should I? Okay, am I gonna do it now? Like it's just, so it's, I don't know. And then it's like the fated people, the people that I've come across, that I've met along the way, who seem to be sort of feeding what seems to be that new chapter of my life, right? And it's those things are slow sort of, you know, moving in slow motion. It's weird because time just is time. And when they talk about time being fluid, it's crazy because we're already almost in 2022, right? And another year has gone by, and that's crazy. But yet I feel like I haven't excuse me, I haven't progressed very far on what I think my new adventure is, right? Because like I just started my YouTube, you know, and you know, we still have the pandemic going on and all of these things that still can happen yet or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, when is that coming? But the time still seems to be flying by. Like, you know, I'm almost 40. Why haven't I reached this milestone of my life yet? What? Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a sort of weird catch-22 with time, because in certain aspects it's just speeding by, and other aspects it's not moving fast enough. Like it just doesn't seem to
I
be
know.
very cohesive.
What
But
is
it is.
time anyway? What is time? I don't even know anymore. It's I don't know. I think like something that I've done to help with that, because you know, especially as you get older, and I think this happens to everyone. I think some people just don't talk about it. Like even people who are, you know, making bank, or, you know, they're like super successful as far as like society is concerned. Like I'm sure everybody has this happen where they're like, oh, I'm this age and I thought I'd be doing this, but I'm not. And life is totally not what I thought it was. And we tend to like get really hard on ourselves, you know, and we're beating ourselves up. But like, why? We don't like, we focus so much on the bad stuff. And, you know, I think that to overcome that, one thing that really helped me was what I did is I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write a list of everything I did this year, like all of my little wins, all of my little accomplishments, the things that I did that I'm proud of. And it could be something small, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to do that for like the whole last year. And I don't know when people are going to be watching this, but yeah, just try that. Like the last year, write down everything you're proud of. And you could do it for your whole lifetime. Like it doesn't matter. The point is that you have this stuff that you can look at and you can like remind yourself of and be like, look at all the stuff I've done so far. Like, I'm proud of me. I'm proud of me for that stuff that I've done. You know, even like to me, even getting to the point of more self-awareness, that was huge. That counts for like 10 things on the list. Because I mean, that just completely like changed my life. And I might not have a fancy car and a big house. And I kind of like purposefully took away and removed my senses of security and illusion. And you know, what I've realized, what I do have is I have freedom. Like my soul is free. I am free. Like there's nothing that anyone can do to me at this point. There just isn't. Like I have that sense of freedom within myself, and like that's worth more than any monetary value to me, to be at that place of like self-acceptance and understanding. So, and yeah, and I also want to say I feel really old too. Like I tell people I have grandmother energy. You know how like sometimes people are like, what's your spirit animal? Well, like I've got spirit animals, but sometimes I'm like, grandma. They're like, what? Like, yeah, like I love grandmas. I love old ladies. I love them to death. I can just, you know, sit and have a cup of tea all day. Yeah, so I feel that I feel pretty old. I feel like I've done this. This is not my first rodeo, for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously I had to keep coming back to keep learning more lessons, and hopefully I'm like getting it this time. Fingers crossed.
Right. I think I'm hoping so. And then hopefully, finally I can, finally take a vacation after that, after
Right?
this life, I could take a vacation from having to come back and do this all over again. I just,
The vacation would be nice because I keep on thinking to myself, and I ask people too. I'm like, do you know when do we get a break? Do we get a break? Does that happen? Like once? Because I feel like
I think honestly, I think everybody here is on a mission, whether we consciously know it or not. I think, our souls are chosen for certain reasons and missions and things like that. And and we go on these various journeys, and I think the other thing is too, you have to be mindful. Yes, in a way things are sort of mapped out, but they're not set in stone.
no,
Everything
definitely
can
not.
change, right? And
Anything.
that's due to the gift of free will, right? So and as we do that, as we affect our timelines based on what we choose in whatever life to do, right? So, and sometimes it takes some people might, some souls might be, able to get it on their first try. Others probably, it takes a few. And then you have the long-term hustlers who have been at this game for forever, and it's like, oh my god, that's how I feel like I'm one of those old G kind of people that sort of spirit that has landed in this lifetime, and I'm just like, yes, I've been here before, and it's like, why don't people get it? And then it's like, I don't know, like I feel like, I don't know. And then I have this sort of drive that, of teaching and helping, because it's like, I know what it's like to struggle, and I don't want that for other, but everybody's on their own journey too. So you have to be mindful and be careful about that, because when you're stepping in, that may not be for you to step in, though. It might be their mission, their lesson they have to learn on their own.
Very
Right. And maybe, maybe you could help them along the way by giving them a tip, or or doing something that maybe could catapult them, but for you to take the reins over, and no, you have to you have to be very careful of that, right?
very
And and remember that you also have to focus on what your mission is too. So we get caught up in someone else's mission, and it's taking away and making a muck of ours, right?
yeah.
So
I think a good place to start with that is it even solicited versus unsolicited? Because what I see, and I think this is part of the toxic, like codependency, people pleasing stuff that's like ingrained in our culture. Like people will want to fix it, and they'll give unsolicited advice. They'll come in like trying to help, like without even asking. And that's like, we got to stop doing that, first of all. I
who's
think
here guilty of doing that?
absolutely.
Because you know what, and that's the thing, because too, sometimes too, we love the people that we meet, right? We build these connections, and and that's part of the love thing too. We don't want to see anybody suffer, right? We know what it's like to suffer, so sometimes we want to help, and we have that drive, but we also have to be mindful that sometimes it's not necessarily what you're meant to do or should be doing. And sort of deciphering that and being mindful of that, right?
Yeah, the other person has their own lessons to learn too, and we have to let them live their journey, because if we enable them too much, we're actually like prolonging their suffering. You know what I'm saying? So
And
like,
sometimes our own too, right? Like, I
yeah,
mean, sometimes our own in the process. you know, and that's a tough thing because, you know, I've always been, you know, I'm a dedicated person of service. You know, I've always, you know, loved helping people and, you know, just loving people in general, you know, annoyed with them at the same time. You know, people can be both, but it's bittersweet. That's life. So it's like, it's, you know, it's, you know, so I always try, but again, sometimes I realize that, yeah, I can overstep because I get carried away with how much I care, that I have to remember that to care too much is almost like not caring at all in a way. So finding that happy middle ground on where, you know, I'm being helpful, but not detrimental, right? Parents, my mom, God bless her soul, but I think she can be like that too a lot. And I don't think that that's something that she's very aware of. You know, so there are things, oftentimes we get into our arguments and it's like, well, I know, like I'm almost 40, like I'm not a child. And it's like, but she just goes on, well, you know, it's, you know, the count is going up. Don't forget, did you wash your hands when you came home? Don't forget to put it. Just your standard practices, mommy. I do watch the news. I'm very well aware of what I need to do to keep myself safe. Thank you very much. I love you. But and you know, and then there's so other different moments like that too, right? But at the same time, you can't blame her. I mean, it does come second nature. She's a mom. She's my mom. She loves me. She wants the best for me. But sometimes you have to find that you know, that shift, that sort of line of when too much is too much, right?
Yeah.
Because if I don't learn for myself, when you're gone, what am I gonna do? Just gonna be like, well, I don't know now what to do because my mom's not here.
Yeah. And I think that's too where like really good boundaries come into play, right?
Yeah.
Like in kind of trying to establish some healthy boundaries to improve the quality of the relationship. Like, you know, I'm a grown ass person now and I really don't like, I don't need you telling me these things anymore. Maybe in a nicer way, you know, but I don't know. I think that like for me personally, like I'm typically not going to help someone or give them advice unless I ask. And there might be a case in which like I feel really called to do it, but I'm going to ask first. I'm going to say,
Yeah.
hey, like, I would really love to like help you on this, or I'd really love to like tell you
Mhm.
something. Is that okay? Like, do I have your permission? Because I think like at the end of the day, we do have free will, but then, you know, we're all sovereign beings that make our own choices. And I think that's what we need to get back to, is understanding that, like that core principle of, you know, everyone can make their own choices. Everyone's capable of doing that. Because, you know, things have gotten a little muddy as far as that's concerned. So, and I think we're seeing that a lot with current affairs. And so I'm highly supportive of people's rights, people's personal rights. So, you know, I think as long as we're trying to respect other people's rights and, you know, getting consent and acting in that way, you know, that can kind of help us to prevent like overstepping and, you know, just wanting to come in and be like the fixer, which isn't always helpful to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's taken me a long time to like get to that place. Because it, you know, it's hard, like you said, sometimes like you, especially if it's a family member or a loved one, like you don't want to see them suffering. You don't. But like I'll just give you an example. Like I have a loved one who as far as like maybe some health decisions isn't making the best health decisions. Now, like, you know, I've shared with that person, but they can still make their own choices. So even though I know it's not good for them, they're still going to do it. And I just have to accept that they're going to do it. And I just have to love them regardless, you know?
Exactly.
So, but it's still tough at the same time. I'm not gonna lie, it's still tough because I'm having to overcome like years and years of that other way of being.
And I mean, and it's hard too, right? Because like, you know, we and you know, the way society, you know, has been, and the sort of the disconnect that grows, and you know, and the way we a lot of the time sort of deal with pain and suffering, you know what I mean? And you know, and then we run into, you know, people with addiction issues and things like that, and you know, withdrawals and you know, like withdrawals from like life, and are just there like zombies, right? Like, you know, or you know, like vegetables. It's like and I don't necessarily mean that in the literal sense, like, you know, like someone brain dead or anything like that. I mean, somebody who's still going about life, but has no motivation for anything and is just there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so, you know, those type, and especially when it, you know, it's hitting closer to home because it's people we love and stuff like that. And you know, it breaks our heart to see someone who is struggling, to see somebody who is lost, to, you know, and wanting to help them and figuring out how to do that, right? Because really, in order for that to really be successful and to help, it has to come from within. They have to make, they have to be the ones to make the change. You cannot force anybody to, right? It never works, ever. You know, that person has to come to that realization for themselves. And when they do, then by all means can reach out and be like, yes, I, you know, this is what I need to change, but I know I need help. Can you help me? You know, and that's, you know, and that's when, you know, you know, we can be there and offer that support and things like that. But to say, I don't like the way you're living your life, you need to change. And, you know, and when they're not ready to, it ain't gonna work,
No,
you know?
0% of the time.
So, but, and then that's when too, you have to like, you have to again weigh the pros and cons, because yes, you can love someone, some, and, you know, if they don't love themselves, then it enough to make it happen or make that change, then that's, you know, it's not going to happen, and they're just going to weigh you down, and they're going to drain you. And so you have to know when do I safely and help, you know, very healthily, if that's even a word, because I probably just made that up, healthily, but you know, in a very healthy manner, how do I sort of draw that line to say, no, I need to separate from this until they can do what they need to do to start to, right? Because sometimes we can get caught up in the love we have for you know, for someone else, and you know, spend, I don't know, a lifetime trying to make it better. But again, that's where I talk about, you know, our journeys. And when you spend too much time trying to fix somebody else, you're losing sight of what yours is. And then, you know, when you sort of broken yourself down, what use are you to you or anybody else for that matter? Because you've allowed someone to drain and suck that life out of you, because they weren't ready to give of themselves what you were trying to get from them or wanted for them. It has to come from within. So
Absolutely. And I think that all circles back to the self-love, you know,
exactly.
because like loving yourself enough to know when you might need to walk away or when you might need to put up some boundaries. And like these aren't things even that need to be, you don't even need to like tell these people about it that you're doing it. It's just like, you know, sometimes decisions you have to make for yourself to protect yourself, like as we're all still healing and, you know, trying to heal traumas and all this stuff. You know, we have to do what's best for us in those situations. And that can be incredibly challenging. I had to do, I've been dealing with some of that this year with people that I'm very close to, or were very close to, and people that have been in my life for a really, really long time. And yeah, it was really, really hard. But, at the end of the day, though, you still have to do what's best for you and what's going to be healthiest for you. Absolutely. Yeah. So I know we're wrapping up here. We're at our hour. So I want to say thank you so much for being
ready.
I know we could probably talk for like 3 hours, right?
Right? Like,
but I know people's attention spans, and like we'll be lucky if they watch the whole hour. So if people want to get in touch with you, and of course I can drop in links in the description after we get off the live stream. But yeah, tell people what's the best way to get in contact with you if they're interested in that.
Okay, so my channel is 3 Degrees of Love. And of course, it's 3_degrees_love. That's on YouTube. But there's also Instagram, which is just at 3 Degrees of Love, one word. And and if they want to reach out by email, then it's 3degreesoflove@gmail.com. So, and yeah, if they, if you're able to put a link to my channel in the description, then once they get to my page, all that stuff, Instagram and whatever, is going to be linked at the bottom of my videos. So yeah, so thank you so much for having me on your channel and doing this with me. This was so much fun.
Right?
And I'm so glad, like I was so looking forward to it, right? Like I was just like, yay, I don't have to plan anything. I just have to show up and I just have to talk. Yes.
I know, it's great. Well, let's plan on doing this again sometime next year.
I would love to. Yes, absolutely.
I feel like there's more.
There is totally more we can talk about, right? This is awesome. Okay. So yeah, like I love this. Thank you so much. And the whole premise, like I said, the whole premise of your channel, the whole, the idea of this, as I said, like this conscious discussion, and the fact that this is what you're doing, this is like amazing. I'm 100% for it. Like I'm totally in love with it. And anytime you want me to come back and join you on your channel and do this discussion, this would, like, yeah, please. I love it.
Definitely have to have you come on again next year sometime. Yeah. So yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up. And so for anybody who has been watching, I hope you guys really enjoy